Hi guys, my name is Yankuba Sinera. I'm here to take you through my individual policy analysis, focusing on the international illicit drug trade, analyzing the factors that have prompted the global expansion or the global growth in this activity, and also the global prohibition regime, the strategies as a way of combating this problem. This is the structure of the policy report. It's divided into 9. The first one will look at the definition of the global illicit drug trades, the major trafficking routes, the factors that are responsible for the global growth in the illicit drug activities, the global prohibition regimes or regulations, as well as the sustainable development goals, the prohibition strategies, the public health impact of these prohibition policies. We'll first look at the definition of this illicit drug trade or the illicit drug business. It is associated with transnational crimes. This is linked to transnational war, considering the fact that the particular crime is committed repeatedly between two or more countries that involve the international production, sales, and distribution of the prohibited drugs, according to UNODC 2020. And it has different categories, and it will be later discussed. According to the World Drug Report 2020, almost 269 million people used drug globally in 2018. And the same year, 35 million suffers the problems of drug use disorder. And the major trafficking routes of heroin, as highlighted, as you can see in this diagram, it's Myanmar, Afghanistan, which constitute almost 380 tons of this cocaine. And the major routes includes, there are two major drug trafficking routes that includes the Balkan routes that involve the Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Greece, Bulgaria, Western Europe. This market is estimated at $20 billion yearly. And also the second route, that is the northern route, that involve the Kyrgyzstan and Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Russia, that stretch all parts of the Central Asia. And this northern market also estimated at $13 billion yearly. The world illegal drug sales, as highlighted, United Nations world illegal drug market sale is estimated at 350 to 500 billion dollars per year. And UNODC, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, have already suggested that between 167 to 315 millions of people from 15 to 65-year-old are estimated to have been in consumption of the illegal substances in the preceding year, according to the World Drug Report 2020. Considering the fact that the illegal drug traffickers choose many clandestine routes, mainly targeting fragile and conflict-affected regions, that especially largely targeting the West, North, and Central Africa, according to Safer World 2012 and OEDC 2007. This route is normally considered to be the third major route of cocaine in the globe. That is the West African routes. And then we have the factors that are responsible for the global expansion of the illegal drug activities around the world. The first is the illegal trafficking. Because of the porousness of the borders, the illegal, the large desert covers, the forest, are mainly recipes for the illegal drug activities. The second one is the socioeconomic factors. unemployment, poverty, corruption, bad governance, social and economic exclusion, um, economic inequalities are all factors responsible for the global expansion of the global growth of this illicit drug. And then the third one is the violent conflicts. Violent conflicts or violent wars are recipes for the growth of illegal drugs production. The organized crime flourishes usually in fragile settings, especially in Myanmar, West, Northern Africa, including Niger, for instance, Chad, Nigeria, Mali, because of the absence of law and order. And then the fourth one is the political unrest. As you can see, what is happening in Syria, Afghanistan, and also in Libya are all example of that. And the nexus between narcotic drugs and also the war, as studies have shown that during German invasion in Poland, the soldiers used Pervitin tablets in 1939 to boost their immune system. Germans shipped 39 million Pervitin tablets to their 3 million soldiers fighting to invade France in 1940s. And also Winston Churchill's, also from England, UK, also built similar interests that supply plenty of Pervitin tablets to its soldiers after knowing that the Germans were using Pervitin tablets at those time. And US General Wright also ordered 500,000 tablets for American soldiers fighting in the north of Africa. The illegal drug trade, as highlighted, the global heroin market out of 430 to 450 tons, 80% is produced in Afghanistan, trafficked around the world through neighboring countries. And Afghanistan is considered the large concentration of the illicit weapons as well because of the political instabilities that is as well as the deep-rooted Islamist movements activities within that area. Um, the, um, the Hezbollah, the Hasababs are known to benefit from the global illegal routes from the Afghanistan opium market. The relationship between illicit narcotic drugs and drug trafficking and weapons usually infringes the peace and stability of Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, among other neighboring countries. Um, in Syria, the Captagon trade. The Captagon is a drug that illegal drug that was invented in 1960s by the Germans. It's meant to treat depression and child attention deficiency. Since 2014, Captagon production and trafficking also flourished in Syria, mainly in the suburb of Aleppo, Latakia, Damascus. Recently, some 2019, 33 million Captagon pills were seized in Greece, shipped from Syria, Latakia. And also 44 million Captagon pills were seized in Saudi Arabia from a company close to Assad family. And there is little evidence, however, linking the production of Captagon to Syrian Islamic State, even though their fighters are alleged to be using these pills in the battlefield to boost their bravado and courage. Italian also in the recent times also seized 15 tons of amphetamine allegedly from Syria in a form of 84 million Captagon pills worth $1.1 billion. And the global prohibition regimes, the treaties, the war on drugs is currently is globalized in this 21st century. However, people continue to alter their own state of consciousness using these drugs. The countries are obliged to prevent the illegal production, trafficking, and use of dangerous psychoactive substances. Yet the United Nations focus more on criminalization and punishment rather than the harm production and education of the dangers of these drugs. As per the United Nations conventions, these drugs includes the focus is on main two major categories. That is the narcotic drugs. That includes the cocaine, the cannabis products, morphines, heroin, opiums, and opium alkaloids. And the psychotropic substances that includes the barbiturates, amphetamines, hallucinogens. All these things are drugs that considered by the United Nations illegal. However, alcohol is not yet included in the convention, despite its psychoactive effects. Yet it is out of the international drug control scope. The key international drug control laws, as highlighted, 1961 Single Convention on Drugs as amended by the Protocol 1972 Single Convention and the Convention on Psychotropic Substances 1971 Convention, as well as the United Nations Convention Against Illicit Drug Traffic in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances in 1988 Convention. And the number of signatories countries as highlighted in this um, document. And the main United Nations bodies that drug control bodies includes the Commission on Narcotic Drugs in 1946, the International Narcotic Control Board in 1968, the United Nations Control Program in 1991, which was merged with Center for International Crime Prevention that results United Nations Office for Drug Control Prevention, UNODCCP, in 1997. And this 1991 program, the United Nations Drug Control Program, was later named United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, in 2002. And other UN bodies that include the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, that is the UNESCO, the World Health Organization, um, uh, the Sustainable Development Goals, the supports United SDG 2030 agenda, which encompasses the human rights, justice, and well-being of all people. The United Nations General Assembly session 2016 considered the control of drugs, illegal drugs, as part of social policies, but is challenged by the understanding of human rights norms, which is underpinned by the best scientific evidence and public health across the globe. The United Nations General Assembly 2016 echoed the dangers of the drugs to the well-being and health of humankind, as stated in the 1961 Single Convention. The prohibition strategies, there are two main prohibition strategies. The supply side approach, which that is the law enforcement focused approach that obstruct the flow of drugs into the illicit market. And the second one is the demand side approach, that public health approach that's focused on education, the treatment to disrupt the demand of the drugs in the illicit market. These are approaches that are taken to address the illegal drug flows around nationally and internationally. The supply sides that include the international treaties. These are the form the basis, the foundation for fighting these illicit drugs, the interdictions, the prosecution, the crop eradication that involve the aerial fumigation of the lands of illegal drugs, the military aid, the alternative livelihood, that is the economic alternatives for the countries, as well as the demand sides that includes the drug abuse prevention, the harm reduction approaches, the decriminalization approaches, and the public health impacts of these prohibition policies. That includes the HIV exposure because of the increase of unsafe injection that is linked to HIV, The studies highlight that repressive anti-drug policies is a recipe for risk of HIV linked to injection from contaminated needles, syringes, as well as the hepatitis C viruses, HCV transmission, which occurs mainly among the prisoners and the detainees in the prison, correctional centers, the tuberculosis complications as well. Yet evidence have also shown that discrimination against ethnic minorities manifest by authorities in several countries. In 2014, the study shows that the blacks are 5 times more highly or are more likely to be in prisons than the white folks in their lifetimes, considering the fact that US racial biasness in policy and detention, the arrest, as well as the sentencing are highly documented for people to see. And the conclusion of this policy paper, the the policies to prohibit the illegal drugs use and trafficking remains paradoxical across the globe. Despite the efforts by the policy makers, the state remains much to be done to address or to curb the menace. This study has shown that the law enforcement authorities crackdown on traffickers have directly or indirectly increased the crime rates and communicable diseases, physical pain, forced displacement, undermining the fundamental human rights to health and well-being. The authorities crack down on traffickers as well in the Balkan areas. Routes is associated to the proliferation of heroin and cocaine from South Asia via Europe to East and West Africa. This indicates efforts to stop the production from illegal one illegal markets result to a shift to another market. Yet someone could argue that there is need to use necessary force for collective interests of the society and the state at large. In this light, however, the international and inter-agency cooperation should be enhanced to jointly combat the problems and dangers associated with the illegal drugs and reduce the harm of the people through education, treatment, and using the standard public and scientific means to address individual behaviors and addictions. These are the bibliography, the references that used to during the research. Thank you very much for your kind attention.